friends, how are you? Carrie Knowles here, the Daydreamer. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Today I want to talk to you about 10 ways that you can make money with your photography. I have two cats and sometimes they like to join the video or mess up the video. So one is already here right next to me and the other one is staring at me. They get jealous of the videos, so we'll see what happens. But I just wanted to share the last video. Talked a lot about how I had a really great fall season with my photography. So I just wanted to share some ways that in the past 12 years I've made money as a photographer. In case maybe it brings some inspiration and ideas that you can do in your business as well. And these don't have to be just photography. You could probably apply these methods of finding ways to make money in several other businesses as well. But the first one is to find your clients. So if you're brand new to whatever you're doing and you're sitting around your house waiting for someone to contact you, the odds of that happening are slim to none. I totally believe in manifesting and mindfulness and materializing things, and we could go into that if you have questions about it. But as far as finding clients and getting started, I really believe in putting forth the effort. See how this is moving? It's the other cat. My first client, I went out and found my client. So I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone because this can be scary and it can be, nerve-wracking, and you can have a lot of imposter syndrome. But if you also watched my last video, I talked a lot about, actually that will be my second tip, so I won't talk about it now, but finding your client. Tip number one, go out and find your client. So what is it you're doing? Who do you know that you could do it with or for free? Yes, free. You're going to have to start somewhere. If you're portfolio building and you've never had a photography client or an art client or whatever it is you're trying to do, then you have to start somewhere. So I saw someone on Facebook that I knew, I went to high school with, who was pregnant. So I simply asked her if I could photograph her a maternity session for her. And maternity sessions weren't all that popular. This was 12 years ago. But I had saw this idea and she said yes. And what was great is that I was like, okay, well, if you like the photos, then, you can hire me for the baby, but the maternity one will just be free, right? And she loved the photos and I love the photos. I still love them now. And it was really very like, I don't know how to say it, but my uncle says I had a lot of happy accidents. So it was like I don't know if it was a Canon PowerShot. I might have been using a Canon PowerShot, but I didn't have like a professional DSL and I didn't know a lot about some photography, shooting on manual and lighting and things like that. I just went out and did it at this beautiful park, and there was flowers in the ocean, so it's kind of hard to mess up your photos if you're in a beautiful garden at the ocean. But she did love them and they did hire me for the baby. And what was even great is that they had another baby. So I photographed him for like the first baby for like newborn, 6 month, 12 month maybe. And then they had another baby. And sometimes when you have your second or third baby, you're just not in the mood for maternity photos. So what was even better was that the second baby, I was able to photograph the birth. Because she was like, well, I don't want to, I'm not in the mood for maternity photos, but I really want to hire you to photograph the birth. And so I photographed my first birth, and so that was great. Yeah, so I put myself out there. Now, when you do this, you might get no's. I just happen to get a yes. But you might get no's or you might hear crickets, so you might have to do it more than once. Let me see. I have my laptop here, so I'm just seeing if there was any other time that I did that. Oh, I did that with restaurants recently. Yes, I did. I was gonna say, like, I don't think I had to do that again for maternity, but I did write a blog on this, so you can see one of these maternity photos from way back then. I will link that below. But yes, last year I did do this with food. So in 2021, I drove around the country. I photographed 100 restaurants in 26 US states for DoorDash. And the job kind of came to an end, or like transitioned, and then they hired some other terrible company that I did not like. And so I was like, I want to go out on my own. So I did start doing this with restaurants. And I think I talked more about that in my video about preparing. What is that Oprah quote? Preparation meets opportunity. So if you go back and look at that video, maybe I'll link it here. I talk more about that, but I have reached out. If there's something I'm trying to transition into, like the first time I was trying to transition into like maternity, babies, families, and then last year was food. Oh, another time I would have done this was a wedding. I believe I did this for a wedding, and I did a wedding for free. I didn't do the restaurants for free, and actually I didn't do the wedding for free either. I did the wedding at a very low price. But the restaurants I did not do for free because I had a full portfolio from working with DoorDash, so there's no reason to do that. The weddings, I had a little bit of experience as a second wedding photographer, which I'll go into as one of my other tips. So yeah, let's finish with that. Number 1, finding your clients. Number 2, I speak about this all the time, you guys. Work within your circle of influence. This is from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And I will post a picture of that book here. Yes, so this is another way of being proactive. Okay, so you guys, when you're finding clients, you're being proactive. When we are working within our circle of influence, we're being proactive. We are telling people what we're doing. We're posting on social media. We are posting ourselves with a camera. We're showing up with our camera. A large reason why I got started in the first place is just because before I even had an inkling in my mind of becoming a photographer, I just showed up with a camera. So people considered me to be a photographer. It's miraculous when you start being something. People just think that's what you are, and you just become that thing. So photography was a large part of my childhood. My family members are photographers, so I just always had a camera. Not many people had an actual camera, like a lot during that period of time. People had like disposable cameras, and then nobody had phones back then. So people were just starting to get phones, and then the phone didn't necessarily have a camera. So having a camera was a big deal 12 years ago. I always had one. I had like a little Canon. I had a little Kodak EasyShare, and then I had a Canon PowerShot. So I think like every year or a couple years, I would just upgrade to a better camera. And so I was always known as the person with the camera in my community, within my circle of influence, right? I'm sitting on my bed. That's why I can bounce. This is my headboard. Isn't it pretty? All right, so tip number 3. I'm not going to go into tip number 2 too much. It's pretty self-explanatory. Work within your circle of influence. You're posting, you're sharing, you're reading this book. All right, number 3, freelance. Okay, do not overlook the power of freelancing. Now, it is true you don't want to stay in the freelancing hamster wheel, because otherwise it's the same as having a job, and that's not why you're here, right? I didn't have a job for 12 years outside of my photography or my students. So if you're on my channel, it's probably because you don't want to work a job. So freelancing can, if you do it too often or get too, you might like it. I don't know. But if you get too comfortable in that world, you're really going to just be getting paid less to do more. And we don't want to do that. But this can lead to better opportunities. I think I talked about in one of my videos how I learned a lot of editing in Photoshop and Lightroom from freelancing for other companies. Um, Nationally recognized school photographers, dance photographers, newborn photographers in high school. I would work for those companies and do their editing and learn their editing. And then a couple of them I became a photographer as well. So the pro is you get paid from a legitimate company. You don't have to do the marketing yourself. The con is sometimes you can't use the photos, but that's not that prevalent anymore. Now most companies let you use the photos. You just have to ask permission. And the other con is that it might start to become like a job to you. Number 4, graphic editing. So as I said, I started learning editing by freelancing, but you can go out on your own and be a graphic editor. I have had people hire me if someone knows you can do these things that they can't do. And then 5, I talked about this a little bit earlier, working as a second photographer. I probably photographed like 20 weddings as a second photographer. And nowadays, like I said, most of them let you use the photos, but you have to tag them in it as the primary, as the lead photographer or the photographer company you're working for. They can pay really good money. Wedding photographer can be really difficult. So working as a second photographer can help you learn the ins and outs of not just marketing and editing and photography, but working with people in general. You have to have really high energy to work as a wedding photographer. So learning how to deal with people in a stressful circumstance. I mean, you think that a wedding would be happy and everything's going to go right, but that's not always the case. Sometimes there's different personalities, and there's different family members and friends who have expectations of that wedding. And it's not just about dealing with the bride and groom. So it can be a little bit tricky. So there can be travel involved, what equipment to use. There's really a lot to know, which photos to get, like which detailed shots, like the cake and the flowers and the rings and things like that. The father of the bride, the dance. I had someone say that they didn't hire me, and the person that they hired, who was charging less than me, didn't get any photographs of her dancing with her father, right? The bride and the father of the bride dance, which is really special. So she kind of had a little bit of regrets for not hiring me. But the reason I knew that, and now there's very rarely, I don't think I've had anyone ever complain that I missed a certain shot or scene or anything, because I did so many weddings as a second photographer. There's some really great photographers out there that you can learn from. We talked about graphic editing, but now my number 6 is graphic design. So if you can design things, now that you've learned all of the editing skills and you can design things, like I actually went to school for this and took some for fine arts and English. So I took some graphic design classes. So you can make really cool things, and somebody like maybe a marketing company or an advertising company might hire you to make logos. Oh, this is what I did once. Yeah, I made a logo. I'm like trying to think what I did. Yeah, I made some logos. I was hired to make an album. So I was actually hired to create a wedding album from a wedding that I did not photograph. It was like an elopement at a courthouse, and they had no, they just had photos on their iPhone. So I was hired to take those photos, like iPhone photos, make them nicer and make them into an album. Because when people start to know that you are capable of, like, you possess the knowledge and expertise to run these programs like Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom or Illustrator or Canva or whatever it is you use, they'd be more willing to pay. So yeah, logos, albums, products, PDFs. Number 7, publish a book. I have a couple books published. I will link them below. You can use your own photos and designs to write or publish a book. a how-to book, or just a book with your photography or poetry, right? Number 8, start your own business. I have started my own business, but I will say it's not that easy. I've always had like 2 businesses or 2 things going on at the same time, because here where I live, it's seasonal. And in the winter, I need to be prepared with something else unless I make enough to carry over to the next year, like carry me through the winter, right? So you have to plan your business accordingly. Like that would be in your business plan. Okay, I'm gonna have this business from August to November, and how am I gonna pay for the other 6 months of the year? So turn your side hustle into a business. Number 9, stock photography. I don't recommend this. I mean, unless you have a lot of photographs that are travel or still photography and you're really good at it, it's just time consuming for not a lot of money. But I just wanted to put it in there because I have made some money off of it. So stock photography would be like selling your photos to something like Shutterstock or Canva, or I don't know any other company, but maybe you're marketing just stock photography and then people need your photos. My most popular photo, I'll link the blog to this, but my most popular stock photograph is one of Big Ben. Ironically, it was when Big Ben was under construction and this bird just happened to fly by at sunset. So maybe I need to go back to London and take one of Big Ben. And my second most popular one is of the Eiffel Tower. So like I said, this is really only beneficial if like you have traveled and you have some photographs that maybe someone else doesn't have access to, so they can buy it online. If you do stock photographies of people, you need to have a model release of them. So I don't do that because it's a pain. Number 10, donations. I don't do this either, but when I was going to school for fine arts, there are artists who are not in the commercial world, they're more in the fine art world, and so their websites will have a donation button. That's why I wanted to include this. If you're doing something that's more of like a service to put your work out there, like I write a lot of poetry. So let's say you just did poetry and you want to put it out there to inspire others, right? So you can make a website for your poetry and then put a donation button on your website. I think you could even put a donation button on YouTube. I don't know the parameters of that. Maybe like your PayPal link and feel free to donate. I don't know. You'd have to read the YouTube parameters, rules, and regulations for that. So yeah, full disclosure, I don't do this. I've never had a donation. I think the only donations I have are actually considered tips. So like at a wedding, or someone who I've already worked for and wants me to do something maybe above and beyond something else. Like this past fall, I got many tips, which maybe you could consider donations, from people who maybe brought grandparents that wanted to be in the photo, or maybe had an extra wardrobe change and was like so grateful that they tipped me or gave me more money. The cats are like getting so upset about this. So just as a recap, we have 1, find your clients. 2, work within your circle of influence. Do you hear them? They're so bad. 3, freelance. 4, graphic editing. 5, work as a second photographer. 6, graphic design. 7, publish a book. 8, start your own business. 9, stock photography. And 10, donations or tips. Maybe I will do another video on the different types of photography I've done, because I didn't really talk about that because there's so many, but I've done like most of them. So those are my 10 tips for making more money on your photography. I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any specific things you would like like me to make a video on. All right, bye.